क्या हुआ जावेद साहब कि पाकिस्तान नामुमकिन यानी failed in essence to join the BRICS?
But that hasn't happened. और ये बड़ा एक disappointing event था. दूसरे even नाइजीरिया जो fully मुस्लिम कंट्री नहीं है, उसको भी बुलाया जाता है. चले यहाँ तो लाइट चली गई.
ये भी एक मेटाफोर है. ये भी मेटाफोर है. We'll continue this.
कि हम लोग रिजेक्ट हुए हैं ना, अभी नहीं इनवाइट हुए हैं. It is apparently a friendly country. I'm not too sure which friendly country was that. So these things have very, very strong impact in terms of your foreign relationships.
नेट माइग्रेशन पाकिस्तान सबसे मेरे ख्याल से दुनिया के सबसे ऊपर तरीन ममालिक के अंदर है कि यहाँ से लोग जो ब्रेन ड्रेन हो रही है एक तरीके से. दूसरी जानिब से जो लोग गए हुए हैं बाहर, फॉर एग्जाम्पल सऊदी अरब ने 4,000 पाकिस्तानी पासपोर्ट होल्डर्स को बैन कर दिया, ब्लॉक कर दिए हैं फॉर बेगिंग इन सऊदी अरेबिया. तो ह्यूमन कैपिटल डेवलपमेंट की आप बात कर रहे हैं कि यार इन्वेस्ट कोई आके बाहर से करेगा हमें, जब हम खुद ही यहां से भागना चाह रहे हैं उन कंडीशन से. So you're absolutely right. But finally, मेरे ख्याल से, going towards some sort of conclusion, Javed Saab, where do you see it going as a Pakistani, as an businessman, someone who's had experience, and where do you see all of this situation going, given the global context where it seems that certain जो पाकिस्तान की traditional powers and backers हैं, United States or UK, have been largely silent on this slide in Pakistan. Yani they seem very disinterested in what's going on.
Look, I think it's very worrying. I remain hopeful. I'm in this country. My patriotism has not diminished. We all love this country. We love all the institutions of this country. We may be critical of some institutions, but we nevertheless love all our institutions. मगर बात यह है कि if we remain in this जो भी present trajectory है, and if we don't move towards order na, a dispensation which is based on rule of law and representative regime, then frankly speaking, it is difficult to see how we'll turn around. Now, my great hope is those who are responsible for this kind of decision making, they can see it themselves. Okay, it can't carry on like this. It must turn around for themselves. देखिए, आपकी अगर जीडीपी नहीं ग्रो करेगी और इंडिया की जीडीपी 7-8% से ग्रो करती रहेगी, then frankly speaking, when India has a GDP of 5 trillion and it spends only 2%, it will have a defense budget of 100 billion. And you will only, even if you have 5% of a budget of 300 billion, because we are almost static, we'll only have 15 billion. How will you compete? They will overwhelm you. And that's a real, we need to think about it. Without economic growth, and economic growth, no matter what you do, ये 50 billion or 20 billion कहीं से आ जाना, handouts इससे नहीं बनती और extractive investments से नहीं, until you build the productive capacity within the country. And the productive capacity will happen when you start believing in the country, in the institutions of the country, all the legal institution, the business institutions, the police institutions, the security institutions. When you start believing in those, as in people internally and externally, you will want to come and invest in Pakistan. Right now, one of the biggest investment sources for the country is the overseas Pakistani. अगर आप देखें पाकिस्तान,
they're in revolt. वो तो revolt में गए हैं, the overseas Pakistanis.
It is very sad, but you have Pakistanis in America who are demanding sanctions on Pakistan. Now, I don't know if I support that, but the fact of the matter is
sanctions against certain individuals in Pakistan. Not necessarily sanctions on Pakistan, but using the Magnitsky Act against certain individuals that are involved in transnational suppression.
You're absolutely right. And thanks for correcting me. That's an important distinction. But what I'm saying is, these are not people who are saying, let's go and invest in Pakistan. Now, between some of these Pakistanis, they easily have 50, 100 billion. And really, it's not a big deal. If you really sum up some of these, doctors and entrepreneurs there. Just their net worths, very, casually you'll find out that their net worth is 30 million, 40 million, in some cases over 100 million. So when you start adding up, and for them to come and start putting a pool together, putting a private equity investment, but they would have to have the right conditions in Pakistan. They would have to have a competitive environment. They would need to know that Pakistan is not filled with rent seekers who will just exploit their investment for themselves. I mean, that's another discussion. I mean, I really question the wisdom of bringing money into Pakistan, because, frankly speaking, you'll not get the returns, because it's such a rent-seeking environment. Unless you're part of that rent-seeking innovation, entrepreneurship, nothing of that pays. What really pays is having the connections in the government and having the right contracts.
Do you feel like people like us also share the blame somewhat, because we are part of an educated elite? We are the beneficiaries of whatever system of privileges was available in a place like Pakistan. और हमने जितना हम ले सकते थे, खैर हमारे हमारे मौक़िफ़ या कुछ और मुख्तलिफ थे, हमारा वो एजेंडा शायद नहीं था, और ज़्यादातर लोगों का मेरे ख्याल से वो एजेंडा नहीं होता. तो इट्स वेरी हार्ड टू डिफाइन व्हाट द एलीट इज, and the elite is also, it keeps changing, right? For example, the elite in play right now, in power right now, the traditional elite, um, so this almost seems like these terms don't really apply, or what do they even mean in a context like Pakistan?
Let me try and break it down. I mean, if you want to say, let's say the extractive elite, and these are probably about, before there were 22 families, probably now there are 100 families. And with that, there are certain institutions that are tied, and they're extractive as well. And really, they are the elite, because policy making is very much designed to benefit those elite structures. And I think there's quite a lot of definition. World Bank ne kaam kara, and they define it as insiders and outsiders. The insiders are those who make policy making, influence policy making. They determine tariff structures, they determine subsidies, they determine where the lending happens, and they do it in a manner where a certain group of people benefit most. And there is clear extractiveness. And Abhi jo Nobel Prize winner Acemoglu talks about these. There are extractive institutions within this country that have been built, and that is what is the problem. Now, that gets countered. That how does that get countered in other countries, like the country you're sitting in, Canada or America, or even places like India, where we probably don't have the experience of China, so we can't really compare ourselves with China, which has a completely have a history of democracy, and that's what we fundamentally believe. Neither can we take the kind of pain which China went through, where the 50 million people died to bring about the changes that happened there. If we take a normal country like Pakistan, which is much like India or some of the democracies around, we need to have representation so that the people get represented and their ideas and their aspirations are catered for. That will fundamentally mean human capital development. Human capital is very simple: education and health, and the institutions around those. In the provinces, to make sure that those provinces where there's resources, they get a fair allocation of the resources. Those are very straightforward things. Now, when you don't have representative governments in the manner of, say, is Canada, then you can have a small group of people taking the bulk of the benefit of these resources, and making sure all the benefit flows to them, and whatever resources
like
are
a colonial
gets allocated.
power, like a colonial power or a colonial adage.
Not very different, and that is a problem. And fundamentally, what happens is a small group of people keep getting the benefits. They don't necessarily invest back, and your capital, as in human capital, your productivity, your capabilities don't improve. So you start getting left behind compared to your neighboring countries. So if you're making, say, let's say cars, for just argue, you're making sort of 1980s cars or 1990s cars still in Pakistan. And the quality or the nature of production
No, no,
is
there's
not
nothing
made.
wrong with making 1980s cars if all the parts, 100% of the parts are made in Pakistan. Like, for example, they're still making ambassador cars in India, but they've
Yeah.
also got like top of the line cars that are competing the world over, right? So it's all
Well,
about how much of that part.
the second part of your statement, Ali. In the end, how will we generate resources to get more capital goods to make better manufacturing? Is if we can compete internationally and sell our products internationally. If you're making 1980s cars, internal combustion cars, which that too probably not with the kind of environmental requirements, then you're not going to be able to sell them abroad. Now, this is when the world is moving towards electric vehicles. Now, the kind of manufacturing processes that are taking place. I'll give you one very. I used to be in. From all my sins, I've done various different things. I used to be the chairman of the Apex Vocational Training Body in Pakistan, NAFTTC. Now, there you have something called CNC machines. This is numerically controlled machines, which are a very important part of manufacturing. And anywhere you have manufacturing growth, you see a lot of these machines. Either you're making them internally, like in China, or you're importing them. Now, in India last year, they imported something like 300,000 of these CNC machines of different category. In, I think, Vietnam, it was a similar number. In China, they manufactured, I don't know, 10 million of these. And they are very important because they really speed up your manufacturing. They're
Right.
critically. Guess how much they in Pakistan total number, a country of 250 million. We altogether we imported only 3,000. Now, what do you think? How I'll tell you how to compare it in terms of industrial competitiveness. We are fighting today with bows and arrows when other people have machine guns. So there you have it. And how do you think we'll compete? How do
We
you
have
think
the
we'll?
sixth. We have the sixth largest army in the world. Are you implying that they
I
have bows and
I
arrows,
Now, I'm sure the army is wonderful, and that is the one thing we
but
are
not that well
absolutely.
equipped according to its own leaders? But yeah, this is a good analogy. Continue, please,
Yeah.
Javed Saab.
So if we can't compete in generating the dollars because we are competitive, just getting once in a while injection of money will not make us better. ये तो ऐसी बात है जिस अगर आप अपने घर में देखें और कोई कजन को देखें जो पढ़ता लिखता नहीं है एंड एवरी सो ऑफन कोई आके उसको कोई कभी मोटरसाइकिल दे दिया कभी फ्रिज दे दिया नाउ कभी थोड़े से पैसे दे दिए कि ट्रैवल कर लो वाइल थोड़ी कुछ दिनों के लिए खुशी हो जाती but he doesn't really improve himself. He doesn't develop the capabilities. We are becoming like that cousin or nephew who really is not building the capabilities to compete and fight for yourself. And we are now perennially looking to everyone के थोड़े से पैसे दे दो मुझे थोड़े से पैसे मुझे दे दो and because China 1.4 billion दे दो Saudi Arabia 2 billion invest कर दो not or please invest कर दो खुदा के लिए invest कर दो not now an investor should come and say this is a desperately important please they should be biting their hands off us they should be biting our hands off to invest here when I was there in China in 2000 when people were they were competing to invest there. When such an environment is created where people are really making money, they want to come and invest. You don't have to say please zara sa invest kar do. Now we are that kind of nation. Please zara sa invest kar do. Acha lagega. And it
इन्वेस्ट
is it
करो,
is
चिकन जॉइंट लेके आओ यहाँ पे, लॉस लॉस पोयोस hermanos लेके आओ, ना सिर्फ वजीर आजम लेके आएंगे एमओयू के ऊपर,
uh,
आर्मी चीफ भी 1+1। खैर एनीवेज, आपकी लाइट अभी तक नहीं आई जावेद साहब, तो एक जाते जाते एक आखिरी सवाल, यूजली आपकी ये जो आउटेजेस हैं इस्लामाबाद में, आप कह रहे थे इस मरकज में, ये क्या हस्बे मामूल के तहत होती हैं, और अगर होती हैं तो कितने अरसा ये लास्ट करती हैं?
I'll be very honest. इस्लामाबाद में जनरली बेहतर होती है इतना ज्यादा नहीं होता है दिस इज अनयूजुअल आई थिंक वेदर कंडीशंस शायद इफेक्ट हुआ है मगर कभी कभार होती है, समर में होती है, इस दौरान जनरली नहीं होती, मगर समर में अगर होती है तो 1.5-2 घंटा होती है।
और आपने
मगर
कहा कि सोलर आपके पास लगा हुआ है, मगर और घरों की तरह बैटरी नहीं है, जो
हाँ,
फीड है वो वापस ग्रिड में जाती है।
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल बिल्कुल।
और
तो
पाकिस्तान के अंदर कितने डिफरेंट ऐसे इदारे हैं, जैसे वापडा, के ई एस सी के इलेक्ट्रिक, तो हर डिफरेंट एरिया का क्या अपना ही अलग एक निजाम है?
वो बिल्कुल, आई थिंक कोई, टू बी प्रिसाइज, कोई 25-26 डिस्कोस जिसको कहते हैं, डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन कंपनीज हैं। एंड उनके
वाह।
डिफरेंट चार्जेस हैं, उनके डिफरेंट लॉस रेशियोज हैं। सो ये दे आर रिस्पॉन्सिबल फॉर द डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन। जनरेशन जो है वो इंडिविजुअल पावर कंपनीज करती है, ना गवर्नमेंट करती है, वापडा करती है, ना इंडिविजुअल
वो
आईपीपीज
जो
करते हैं।
आईपीपीज आपका जिक्र कर रहे थे आज, जिनका आप,
जी, वो करते हैं, ना गवर्नमेंट करती है।
और
तो
अब तो ये विंड विंड और सोलर फार्म्स भी बहुत लगा रहे हैं बेसिकली, ये जो
आई थिंक,
आईपीपीज है।
मुझे वैसे ही, आई थिंक ये एक डिफरेंट टॉपिक है, मगर मुझे समझ नहीं आती, जब एक्सेस कैपेसिटी है और एक्सेस कैपेसिटी के लिए आप पे कर रहे हैं, तो और किस लिए हम लोग ऐड कर रहे हैं अभी जनरेटिंग यूनिट्स? इट इज बिविल्डरिंग, and then we are coercing people to terminate contracts. So I think there's a lot of confusion there, and there's no clarity of thought. In the
You know what?
meanwhile,
You're right. This topic deserves another episode on its own. Thank you so much, Javed Hassan Saab. It's a pleasure. And I don't know where the time went. I'll try to edit this out for our audiences as well. But a pleasure having you, and I hope you come back and speak to us again.
look forward to it. Look forward. Thank you for having me, Ali.
Take care, sir.
Bye.
Javed Hassan, a business leader, joining us from Pakistan. और इत्तेफाकन इंटरव्यू शुरू होते ही उनकी लाइट गई और इंटरव्यू के इख्तिताम तक उनकी बिजली नहीं आई। आई थिंक इट्स अ मेटाफोर फॉर पाकिस्तान के इस वक्त क्या हो रहा है इस मुल्क के अंदर। अंधेरों में लोग जिंदगियां गुजार रहे हैं। ये तो एक बिजली गई थी, मगर जो आइन के साथ हुआ, हमने देखा 26वीं तरमीम के साथ उसको किस तरीके से पास किया गया। अब माशी सूरत हाल जिस तरीके से जावेद साहब बता रहे थे, बद से बदतर होती जा रही है मुल्क की, एंड विद नो एंड इन साइट। आप क्या समझते हैं? बताएं कमेंट सेक्शन के अंदर। एंड डू लाइक, सब्सक्राइब एंड शेयर दिस कंटेंट। अपना ख्याल रखिएगा। अल्लाह हाफिज।